All right, guys, what's up? So I didn't get to do anything yesterday. I got a little busy with work, and man, the news cycle moves so incredibly fast. So there's a whole bunch of stories that I would like to, cover, but I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of them in great detail. So I guess maybe I'll try and smash a few together. But I wanted to start with the most important one, I think, and I saw this late last night, and this is what's going on over in Palestine. So Israel just did a massive ground invasion in the West Bank. And so this is from Al Jazeera. Israel's war on the West Bank, continuing Israeli attack on locations across the northern West Bank, highlights Israel's treatment of the occupied territory. Okay, so at least 10 Palestinians have been killed in a wide-ranging Israeli attack on the northern occupied West Bank, focused on the governorates of Tulkarem, Jenin, and Tubas. According to the Palestinian Red Crescent, 4 people were killed by Israeli forces in Farah refugee camp in Tubas, 3 people by an Israeli drone in a vehicle attack in Sir near the city of Jenin, and 2 were killed in Jenin itself. Another Palestinian was later reported to have been shot and killed in the village of Kafirdan, west of Jenin, according to the Wafa news agency. Jenin has a population of about 39,000. It's reported to have been entirely sealed off by Israeli forces. The governor of Jenin said the Israeli forces had cut off access to the hospitals and medical facilities in Jenin, and Israeli media outlets reported that Israeli soldiers had surrounded hospitals in Tulkarem and Tubas. You don't say. So, I mean, this sounds exactly like Gaza. They attack people and then they cut off the aid to it, which is insanity. Israeli military has described the assault, which began early Wednesday, as the largest in the West Bank in over 2 decades. It's released a joint statement with the Israeli police describing it as a counterterrorism operation targeting Palestinian fighters. Yeah. So, they're going to call it Hamas, just like they always do. It's a pull string doll. Right? You just pull it but Hamas, we had to. So it's always the same excuse no matter what. This is a little bit of a map, and it just kind of shows you where these attacks happened. Here's Jenin, Tulkarem, Tubas, and the real reason why they're going after the West Bank, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but all of this is biblical Holy Land. So here's Jerusalem right here. Right on the territory with Israel and the West Bank. And this is a map down here kind of showing you the greater, what Israel looks like. Here's Gaza here, here's the West Bank, and then the whole thing is Israel. All right, how often do Israeli forces attack Palestinians in the occupied West Bank? Well, it's been going on almost daily since 2022. So that predates the current far-right Israeli government. They regularly target Palestinian cities, refugee camps, and villages, and they've killed hundreds. I think last number I saw was over 660 people in the West Bank just this year. So you've got illegal settlers that are attacking people there. You've got the Israeli military that are attacking people there, and they're trying to keep all of it suppressed down with the cooperation of the Palestinian Authority. But importantly, Hamas is not running the West Bank. It's the Palestinian Authority. The Israeli media, quoting Israeli military sources, which are not to be trusted because, it's as biased as you're ever going to get, is expected to the attacks to continue for several days, meaning that the death toll is going to rise sharply, particularly as the villages and cities have been attacked, are full of Palestinian civilians. Israel is describing the assault as the biggest of its kind in the West Bank since 2002, when the Palestinian territory was in the middle of the Second Intifada. During that, Israel killed 4,793 Palestinians. Approximately 1,000 Israeli casualties happened there. So 5 times as many Palestinians died in the Second Intifada back in 2005. Now, for context, the numbers coming out of Gaza are so astronomical, it makes that look like nothing. I mean, the conservative numbers right now are upwards of 40,000 people, upwards of 40,000 Palestinians have been killed. I think I've seen 43 or 45,000. Well over 15,000 children, over 10,000 women. The death toll, the casualty rate, it's 90% civilian death rate. So it's just, not only is it catastrophic, it's completely unforgivable. If your supposed target is Hamas, you've displaced, so it's like 2.3 million people that live in Gaza or something like that. They've displaced almost 2 million people. They've injured almost 100,000 people, and they've killed almost 50,000 people, and 90% of them are civilians. It's unreal. And the United States just goes along with it because they have this line that, like, well, Israel has a right to defend itself. Yeah, but like when you're at 90% civilian death rate, that's not defense anymore. That's just, we got to call a spade a spade. Like, they're just ethnically cleansing and they're just killing people. So when we say it's a genocide in Gaza, that it's not a reach at all, right? I think by any reasonable metric, you can say that this is systematic. So we'll look a little bit further. Israel views groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, as well as many other Palestinian movements, as Iranian proxies. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz said that Iran was working to establish an Eastern terrorist front against Israel in the West Bank by financing and arming terrorists and smuggling advanced weapons in from Jordan. But, as mentioned previously, the large-scale attacks in the West Bank predate October 7th. Israel often frames this occupation of the West Bank as, quote, necessary for security reasons, but Netanyahu and other leading Israeli politicians have rejected a two-state solution, openly calling for an increase in illegal Israeli settlements, and responsibility for policing in the West Bank is overseen by Israel's two most controversial and pro-settler governor ministers. That would be Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. Both have spoken in favor of further Israeli expansion within the Palestinian territory and both of supporting settler violence against Palestinian citizens within the territory. Both Smotrich and Ben-Gvir are settlers themselves. So they're illegal settlers. They're okay with settlers attacking Palestinian civilians. With the attacks in the West Bank continuing, Foreign Minister Katz has called for the temporary evacuation of Palestinians from the West Bank, raising the fear that Israel may be attempting to engineer the forced displacement of Palestinians from the territory. You don't say. And they have in quotes, temporary evacuation, because we already know what's happened in Gaza. We're 11 months in now. You've got almost 2 million people displaced. And what they've done is they've almost bombed Gaza off the map. So like all of the homes that have been destroyed that these people have been displaced from, they can't go back to them. Okay? So they say like temporary evacuation, and they tell them to go to some refugee camp, and then they bomb the refugee camp. And so they just keep moving them around, but they don't have the ability to go anywhere anymore. Like, anybody who is still denying that this is apartheid, who's still denying that this is genocide, is just either horribly misinformed or Israeli hacks or whatever, right? And we have those people in our politics in the United States, which actually is one of the things I want to get to next, because this is only going to get worse. I expect this to get much, much worse, and the United States is going along with it. So I don't think there's any hope left for Joe Biden. He has made that bed. He is going down with that ship. They always use they speak in the language of feel your pain, right? Like, oh, we understand, and we're trying to get a ceasefire. We're doing everything we can. No, you're not, because you just approved another $20 billion in aid to Israel. And it's a huge political liability. Like, this is one of the biggest things that was hurting Joe Biden, aside from the fact that he's ancient and he can't complete a sentence. But I also think that if Kamala stays the course and does this, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, I think that her policy will be largely the same. So this is really bad. It's probably not going to get anywhere near enough attention in the mainstream news. Most of what I've seen has been in print, but I don't really ever see this on the actual news networks. Super sad. And like I said, I just expect it to get worse. So we'll try and stay up to date with it. I'll try and keep covering it when I can, as much information as comes out. Guys, if you like this information, like seeing stuff like this, please like and subscribe. You're not going to see this too much in the mainstream media. So we'll try and cover this a little bit more as it unfolds, and I'll see you in the next one.